Am I the asshole? For threatening to make my cousin homeless over some trees. My great-grandpa split up his property among all his kids when he retired. When he did this, it was way outside the city limits. My grandmother only had one kid. My dad. And I am her only grandchild. My dad gave me the land. My piece is the biggest. We are also close enough now for city water and power. Some of the land has been sold to developers. My uncle subdivided his portion into acreages. He kept one and gave each of his kids a plot. My cousin has spent 10 years building his dream home. It is up the hill from my cabin. I bought an old one-room schoolhouse and moved it onto my land. I love it. I will retire there someday. But it needs work. My cousin has been bugging me to clear some of my woodlot. It blocks his view of the valley. He chose that lot. I don't know why he would pick a location with an obstructed view. My wife and I live and work in the city. We only go out to the cabin a few times a year. My cousin lives in his home. Him and his kids constantly throw parties there. We go if we are out at the cabin. But mostly we like having the privacy of the woodlot between us. My cousin didn't. He chopped down 10 of the tallest trees between our properties. All of them were on my side of the fence. The missing trees were the first thing I saw when I got out there. I immediately checked my trail cameras. I had video of him and his sons doing it. I went over and asked him WTF? He said the trees were diseased and he did me a favor. I told him I wanted to look at the wood. The trunks were gone and he only had a bunch of the branches. I called a tree guy from the university to come look at the stumps and he told me the trees were fine and that tree theft is a big deal. I told my cousin that he had to do something or I would go to the cops. He said to go ahead. So I did. I also called a lawyer that specializes in tree law. I didn't even know that was a thing. Each tree was worth $50,000. My cousin has gone crazy since he was served. The cops tracked down the trunks. They actually used DNA to identify my logs. The company that bought them agreed to give me the money from the trees and testify against him if I didn't charge them. My uncle and my dad came to talk to me. My cousin doesn't have the money. He would have to sell his house. And if he gets a criminal conviction, it will affect his job. We came to an agreement. My uncle gave me one of his undeveloped lots and some money. I dropped the charges against my cousin. My family is divided. On the one hand, he stole my property. On the other, I took money from my uncle in return for not making my cousin homeless. We planted new trees, but they will take a long time to make up for the old ones. My cousins are furious that I took money that was part of their inheritance, but they are madder at their dumbass brother than they are at me. My dad said that I shouldn't have involved the law in a family dispute. Not the asshole just because your family doesn't entitle him to change your property or steal lumber. Op, do something or I call the cops. Cousin, go on then, call the cops. Op, okay. Family, wow. Op's cousin discovered the first rule of I dare you and doesn't like it. OP was reasonable until his cousin decided to double down and was still reasonable when he had the option to ruin his cousin's life. Not the asshole. I wouldn't call destruction of $500,000 worth of property a family dispute. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Your cousin did something he knew you had said no to and then lied about it. You did the right thing. His father should take what he had to pay for his screw-up out of his share of the inheritance. He needs to pay for what he did one way or another and not have daddy pay. Not the asshole. This isn't your cousin taking a carton of eggs. This is likely hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage and theft. You get the law involved. I love tree law. I always yell tree law in my head when I read these posts. No one expects tree law. Our tree law. Edit spelling. Not the asshole. He F around with someone else's property and found out. He's just lucky he was bailed out. And your dad is wrong. Your cousin not providing food to Thanksgiving family gatherings is a family issue. Stealing and selling someone else's property is a legal and criminal issue. Not the asshole. You have made a point that you won't put up with any shit from your cousin. Otherwise he'd have ended up cutting more down when it suited him or doing other things with your property. I would have carried on with the court case and took him for all his worth. He won't learn his lesson otherwise. Your cousin committed an act against you. It's his actions that caused all of this, not yours. Was Dad willing to pay for the cost of the trees? If no, then he has no say in it. You were the victim, not him. I think your cousin seemed to have gotten away with it. His father and others paid for his arrogance and entitlement. It's a shame when family don't allow the consequences to happen to protect their precious entitled offspring, as they don't learn from their actions if they are not punished for them. Some of the biggest crimes against people are done by their family, their relatives. So yes, you do involve the law. It's the only way they learn their lesson. No TA on your behalf. Not the asshole. If your cousin's kid has broken a window, that's a family issue. If your cousin had let his dog crap in your yard, that's a family issue. Deliberate damage and theft of $500,000 of property is not a family issue. Not the asshole. The company that bought them agreed to give me the money from the trees and testify against him if I didn't charge them. Okay, first, the company knew about tree law. I first learned about tree law years ago in rural New York when I first heard about tree poaching. They didn't want to lose their business. Second, the company that bought them. The cousin sold the lumber. Cousin knew exactly what he was doing. Cousin likely needed some fast cash. Had he gotten away with it, he would have done it again. Not the asshole. Your cousin is the cause of the problems, not you, so tell your family to direct any anger at him for this mess. It's not just trimming a few branches. Instead, he got what he wanted and made a load of money out of it too. Personally, I would have said I wanted his plot as compensation. He can have another one of your uncles as long as it doesn't share a border with yours. Your cousin hasn't suffered any consequences for his crime, as he hasn't been charged, hasn't given anything up, and your uncle has bailed him out. Not the asshole, because if you had let it go, he would have done it again. Actions have consequences, and this was a huge theft with huge consequences. He thought because you were a relative he was entitled to take liberties, and he learned the hard way. Now he and his siblings have all been punished, so I'm guessing he will bear the brunt, not you.